So many of you have been recently asking me for this. So in this video, I want to talk about my experience testing out all of these different lenses with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And make sure you stick around for later in this video because I'm going to show you some lens combinations that give me footage and perspectives that I didn't really even think about before doing this video. Intentionally, this video is not sponsored or anything with Beastgrip. They have no idea I'm making this video. And so for those who don't understand mobile optics, they change all the time. And so a lens that maybe looked perfect with the 14 Pro now may not work so well with the 15, depending on how the optics have changed. So let's go through what lenses we're going to be talking about today. The Pro Series 1.7x teleconversion lens, 2x teleconversion lens, which is actually an older model. We've got the 1.33 anamorphic Mark II, the 1.55x anamorphic Mark II, Pro Series 0.75 wide conversion lens, the latest Pro Series macro, and let's talk about the DOF adapter and the tease for the new one that's coming. So I've got all my footage imported into DaVinci Resolve here. So all I'm going to do is go in and add a simple conversion. If you're using DaVinci Resolve, the best way to do it is just do an ACES transform instead of a normal CST transform and go to Apolog as the input, select your output, which for most of us is Rec 709. Instantly going to give you a much better look than even Apple's Rec 709 conversion LUT. So I'm just going to make a still out of this, select all my clips, apply grade. Boom. So our first clip here is our control. This is simply just the iPhone one-time lens. Now this is taken inside of the native iOS app, so we don't have any NDs yet. And so I want us to take note what the water's looking like here. If I zoom in, we can see that because it's bright out, we can have a very fast shutter speed. That's why the water is looking very sharp. So for the next clip, we're jumping inside the Blackmagic camera app. And I've simply just added a ND so that I can get a proper shutter speed and exposure. And so look how much more natural that water's looking on the left side. This is when people use the term cinematic. Okay, it looks way better with the proper motion blur. All right, so now we're getting into our first lens here, which is the 1.7 teleconversion. Of the two teleconversion lenses that I have from Beastgrip, this is the newer one. It's upgraded with significantly bigger optics and front lens element. And so this worked great with the 14 Pro. And so I imagine everything is still looking pretty good. Everything's looking nice and sharp. Before any of you comment saying, Michael, look at that terrible vignetting there, I do believe that is user error. And so for this shot, I was just kind of holding this here. Clearly that is. So there is no vignetting with the lens itself. So next up, let's look at the 2x teleconversion. Again, this stopped being good with the iPhone 14, became pretty soft. And as we look at it with the 15, it's similar story. It very much gets soft pretty much throughout the whole image, but even more so on the edges. Yeah, you can see all these trees that are in the background here. There's pretty much no sharpness to any of it. So this is going to be the first lens that I put in the don't recommended pile. Whereas the 1.7, highly recommend. Let's look at some anamorphics. This is the 1.33x. First, we just gotta say fit. In my opinion, this is looking pretty good. I do believe I forgot to turn off image stabilization, which you always want to do with mobile phones and anamorphics, just because it creates really bad wobble. Even though I was holding it very still, you can still see some wobble in there. Anamorphic's always going to be a little bit softer. It's going to have quite a bit of kind of character to it. That's the anamorphic look, but it's definitely not always extremely tack sharp. So the 1.33, yeah, I'm going to put that in the recommended pile. And now this should be the 1.5. Let's do fit. For anyone who is curious on the difference between 1.33 and 1.55, here you go. And pretty much same story here. It definitely gets more distorted around the edges, but again, because it's anamorphic, I kind of expect it to not have that so clinical look. All right, so now we're gonna jump to the Pro Series 0.75x wide angle adapter. So by far the 0.75x Kenko wide adapter lens is probably one of my favorites and most used because I love the ultra wide angle focal length, especially if you're in like a beautiful area. You want to see a lot of the space, or if you're filming yourself and I can't see the monitor right now and I just kind of have to trust that I'm in frame, it's really nice. But there's a lot of lighting scenarios that the ultra wide angle lens of the iPhone doesn't look very good. So a lens that gives me access to my highest quality sensor is really important to have. But yeah, so far I think everything's kind of on the same level playing field, except for the 2x wide angle lens goes in the good pile. All right, next up we have the little macro guy here. The focus plane on this guy is so razor thin, and so I basically was moving the whole phone, but these look incredible. These are so sharp. I mean, this looks sweet. This lens absolutely is a win. I was wondering what lens I still had in front of me. 1.55, yeah, definitely a win. So now what about the DOF adapter? Now, to be honest, I had two of these lying around, and one was a very early beta and then one was a near final production release. I believe this is the very early beta, and so when I tested it with my iPhone 15, it did not look great, but I don't want to say definitively that the Mark II doesn't look good, because I can't be 1,000,000% sure if this was the final production if you were to buy it. But what I do know is Beastgrip did release a video recently teasing their 3rd generation DOF adapter. It looks incredible, even better than the Mark II on a 13 Pro or a 14. So I can't wait to hopefully try that out at some point in the future. All right, so let's talk about some lens combinations. And what I mean by that is, what lens on the back of my iPhone can I use with different physical lenses we're adding on top of it? So one thing I was interested in trying is taking the Kenko wide conversion and attaching it to the ultra wide lens of the iPhone to get like a ultra wide, but the ultra wide is already a 13mm equivalent. So adding that on top, we basically get ourselves a good old like 90s skateboard video kind of look to it. Cool effect if that's what you're going for. But yeah, that doesn't work. All right, so then I stumbled upon some geese and I was like, oh, let's test out some telephoto stuff here. And this is just kind of a control shot with the standard 5x telephoto, no NDs, no nothing. But then what I thought about is, okay, we know the 2x teleconversion doesn't look good, but what if I go to my 5x telephoto lens on the phone and I grab the 1.7 teleconversion lens and add it on top of that, add in a little bit of ND. So we can see it has really nice natural fall off when we focus on a close subject. And the Blackmagic app really does a good job at kind of focus pulls. So kind of a sweet little hack that I don't know why I didn't think about before. Wildlife photographers, sporting events, concerts, all that good stuff. With not much longer of a lens, you're gonna get a much better result than just digitally cropping in to that like 15 times whatever max zoom that you can technically do. Although now I'm interested, if I have both lenses on them and I do a digital zoom, is that gonna look even better? But this footage, I definitely wouldn't include this footage into like any professional works. All right, so this clip, we start at 5x. This is just all optical. And then we go to 8x, just a little bit of digital crop. I think this still looks pretty good. And then we start zooming into 15x. I do believe though, having physical optics in front make the lens flares better. I think that's just kind of science, or at least they change them. Better is subjective, but they do alter the type of lens flares. Also, I live near an airport, and so I got this plane coming in to land, and this is just the 5x with the teleconversion lens, so all optical right now. And then I start to zoom in just to see what the digital crop looks like. So now we are at 15x. So this is full digital crop, full optical zoom, and that's nuts. Like, you can still see some pretty intense detail. Again, professional work? No, not really. That's pretty cool to have as filmed on your phone. So after testing all of my Beastgrip lenses, I would say that the only two I don't really recommend picking up right now are the older 2x teleconversion lens and the DOF, the depth of field adapter, since the new one is right around the corner and it looks so good. I'd really hold off if you can on that one. but everything else is looking spectacular on the iPhone 15 Pro. So hopefully this was helpful to you all. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.